Hi, today is March 11th, 2023, and here are my poems for the day. The first one is poem number 415 for the year, Journal. About a month ago, I brought some books up here from one of the places where I used to live. One of the books was not a book. It was a copy of Volume 7 of the Cardozo Journal of International and Comparative Law, published in 1999. I would be named editor-in-chief of that journal the following year. And the year after that, the journal would publish my note, Chinese Population Transfer in Tibet, which, if you're playing at home and wanted to cite it in one of your articles or one of your notes, which apparently has happened at least 100 times, you would cite it as 9 Cardozo J. Int'l and Compl 173, 2001. One question might be, why do I have a copy of Volume 7 of this journal rather than Volume 9? And the answer would be that I have several copies of Volume 9. I just don't know where they are. Poem number 416, Death. Yesterday, I brought some books up here from another of the places where I used to live. One of the books was a book called The Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche. Although I have still not read this book all of the way through, I believe that the little bit that I did read changed the way I looked at death. I think I don't fear death as much as I used to. I'd like to believe that I will enter into death with at least some small amount of grace rather than fear. I guess I will be able to confirm this in a few more decades, if not sooner. Poem number 417. A good thing that people don't ask. People don't come up to me all the time and say, Johnny, I heard you wrote an article in a law journal. What was it about? And when people don't ask me this, I don't tell them that, first of all, it's a note, not an article, because notes are typically written by students, while articles are written by scholars and professors. And then I wouldn't say that the note is about the massive transfer of Han Chinese into Tibet, which some argue constitutes a human rights violation. Nor would I note, by quoting the note, that the note examines various approaches towards alleviating this problem. John S. Hall, 9 Cardozo J. Int'l and Cop L. 173, 2001. The follow-up question that also isn't ever asked, because why would you ask a follow-up to a question you didn't ask in the first place, is, what conclusions did you reach in your note, Johnny? To which I don't reply, because why would I reply to a follow-up question that isn't asked? That my conclusions were that there might be a few approaches that might possibly alleviate the problem. See Ibid pages I don't know, because I don't have a copy of the journal right here handy, and I could only access the first page of the note on Hein Online without paying for a subscription. But in truth, I wasn't optimistic about a solution then, and I am even less so now. So your note offered no realistic solutions to the problem of Chinese population transfer in Tibet, asked no one ever, to which I have never replied. No, not really, not at all, really. I guess it's a good thing that people don't ask me these questions. I wouldn't want to bore anyone or bum anyone out. Poem number 418, Light a Match. It wouldn't be so bad if people were to ask what got me interested in writing about Chinese population transfer in Tibet in the first place. I could mention that I had read a few books by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama, and I had seen him speak at the Beacon Theater in August of 1999 on 8 verses for training the mind with the woman who would later be the mother of my child, and I became more and more interested in Tibetan Buddhism, and I had developed a concern for the Tibetan people, and I had come to resent the obnoxious justification for the Chinese invasion of Tibet in March of 1959 that Tibet had always been a part of China. So I wanted to try to do something, and I did try to do something, and it felt good to try to do something, even if I didn't do much of anything, even if I didn't do anything at all. Maybe the note I wrote made a teeny tiny little bit of difference. I cursed the darkness a lot, but I also tried to light a match. Poem number 419, A Sign. So there I was on the bike path again yesterday with several old books of mine in my backpack. I had a translation of the Gita and Navin by Mary Catherine Bateson's dad. See yesterday's poem number 414, Yugen. And I forgot what all else I had, but yes, I had the Tibetan book of Living and Dying in my backpack when, as I got to 42nd Street, I saw a long line of Tibetans crossing across the bike path to get to the pier. I dismounted and slipped through them and rode on, but then I turned back to take some pictures. The best picture that I took doesn't give a good sense of the size of the crowd, which must have numbered several hundred, and it is kind of dumb, but maybe kind of funny, that you can see the sign that says, "Eat lobster on a boat," which is what it says on the other side of the sign that says, "Eat tacos on a boat." See last year's poem number 1810, Tacos on a Boat. And although the "Eat lobster on a boat" sign dominates the frame, you can also see a picture of His Holiness and several signs that people are holding, including a sign that says National Uprising Day. The sign explains what was going on, which is good because I had no idea what was going on, which shows how little I actually know about Tibetan culture. Poem number 420, National Uprising Day. China had been occupying Lhasa since 1951, following the signing, most likely under duress, of the 17-point agreement. The 17-point agreement is too lengthy to go into just now, but my understanding is that it has at least 15 points, give or take a couple. On March 10, 1959, Tibetans had it with the oppressive presence of Chinese soldiers. They were also concerned that the Dalai Lama was about to be arrested, and he probably was. The protests started peacefully but turned violent. Thousands of Tibetans were killed, and the Dalai Lama escaped and went into exile in Dharamshala in India. March 10th is now known by Tibetans as National Uprising Day, and I guess every March 10th they gather to protest the continuing occupation. I didn't know this until today, and now I do, and if you didn't know it either, now you do too. And last poem of the day is poem number 421, Free Tibet. If the books in my backpack had not been so heavy, I would have stayed longer, but I'm glad I stopped to take pictures and to chant with the protesters for a short time. Free Tibet, free Tibet, free Tibet. I can still hear the woman with the loudspeaker. She was so angry. The bullhorn, not a loudspeaker, with the bullhorn. She was so angry. The crowd was so angry, but inside that anger, there must be such sadness and maybe even a sense of resignation. I wonder how many in that crowd believe in the idea that one day Tibet will be free. The Dalai Lama will die before Tibet is free, and China will name a 15th Dalai Lama to compete with and call into question the legitimacy of the 15th Dalai Lama that the Tibetans will name. I will most likely die before Tibet is free, and it is not unlikely that everyone in that protest yesterday will die before Tibet is free. But we believe in the idea of a free Tibet, and so we continue to call for a free Tibet, free Tibet, free Tibet. Thank you for listening again, and I appreciate you. And free Tibet.